President has called on domestic oil and gas industry to produce more energy, but the President's fiscal year 24 budget removes tax deductions on small independent oil and natural gas producers. These producers account for over 90% of the wells in the U.S. and produce over 80% of America's oil and 90% of America's natural gas. These local producers are ramping up production to meet our pressing energy needs, while creating high-paying jobs and generating critical revenue that support our local public services in California's Central Valley. The President's budget proposes to end some of the tax deductions that many of these independent producers use to maintain depleted wells and invest in exploration for oil and gas. These are no different from standard deductions a business takes for the depreciating value of equipment or investments in research and development. Do you think it's contradictory for President Biden to call on oil and gas companies to increase production while at the same time his budget eliminates the tax deductions and burdens domestic energy producers with significant tax increases?
Congressman, I'll point out that domestic production is about 1 million barrels per day greater than it was in January 2021. So we continue to see robust energy production in this country. And as you know, the debate about what loopholes to close, what taxes, is counter with what spending to cut. So we have a choice if we want to get our long-term fiscal house in order.
So what policies is in the President's budget will encourage oil and gas exploration and spur investment in increased supply?
I'll just point out again, we see over 1 million barrels a day more than when the President took office. We see refinery up more than 28% than 2 years ago. So his policies are not getting in the way of production. We're seeing increased production and refinery.
We're actually seeing a decrease in production in the Central Valley. We're not seeing as much investment. We've seen it to the point where local communities have actually had to increase sales tax to make up for the difference in losses of revenues because of the number of jobs that were created, the number of investments that were made, the amount of equipment was purchased, the amount of even local revenue to the local businesses, to the point where they've actually had to raise revenue through sales tax to make up for the losses because of the lack of permitting approved of. And some of that is state and some of that's federal. Sadly, we're fighting it from both sides in California. And I know that the tax credits are something that the administration doesn't support, but in the previous comments from my colleague from Texas, tax credits were mentioned as one of the ways that you would increase housing by giving tax credits to people to build more. And I would say the same thing would work for oil. And if you take away those tax credits, you're going to have the opposite effect of what you're going to do for housing.